So, hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on the weTHRIVE podcast, where we share stories from entrepreneurs from around the world about how they're creating an impactful legacy. I'm your host, Casey Clark, founder and chief growth officer of C. Clark Consulting, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing my dear friend, Sarit Arbell, who owns BNI Central Maryland. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here. So thank you for hosting me today.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? As you've mentioned, I'm the executive director for BNI Central Maryland. BNI is the Business Network International. It's the most successful networking organization in the world. And I own their franchise for half of Maryland. I couldn't be more honored and humbled to be representing BNI, because what we do on a regular basis is we are helping small and medium business owners thrive and grow. And I'm very excited. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Awesome. So you mentioned that word thrive that I love. So tell us what thrive means to you.
Thrive means growth. It's very simple. Usually the connotation is financial, but for me, thriving is way beyond financial. I know people who thrive financially, but really decay on every aspect of their life. Mm-hmm. So thriving is when your health, when your wealth, when your mental, spiritual, when all of this combined and all of these are moving in a direction that make you be a bigger and better version of yourself. Mm-hmm. And being bigger and better, it's in your own opinion, not what other people think. Because sometimes people can think that working in a certain job, maybe working for a bank, making a lot of money is what thrive looks like, but it's not for you. For you is hike and do yoga all day long, and that's thriving for you. And maybe you have less money in the bank, but you have, you have more fulfillment mentally and spiritually. And that, to me, the combination of all of this in your own opinion, that's what thrive means.
Yeah, I love that. It is definitely unique for everyone. And funny enough, I actually just presented at BNI Synergy today and talked about that exactly. Success and thriving are different for everyone. So thank you for reiterating that. So when you think of your own personal thriving, you mentioned hiking and yoga. So of course, whenever I think of hiking, I think of you, because I know you find like the most beautiful spots in the DMV area to go hiking. But outside of hiking, what other resources do you use to help you thrive personally?
Personally, I love personal growth seminars and books. That's where I started my own journey. I came from a very skeptical starting point, and I still remember the very first person who opened my ears, and the book that influenced me to think about meditation differently from what my opinion used to be. I'm a very opinionated person, and so I had a very clear opinion about meditation. It sounded like BS to me, but truthfully, personal growth seminars and books are definitely a starting point for me, and from there everything is growth. When I had hard times, I would listen to books, and I shared it with some people. Some days when my internal voice was so loud and crazy, I literally had to put the audio to be louder, just so my internal craziness will be overruled by the positivity of books. So I cannot talk enough about the importance of books on our lives. And sometimes the book that opened my eyes to meditation was Eat, Pray, Love, which is definitely not a personal growth book, but the way Elizabeth Gilbert, who is one of my favorite authors talked about meditation there, it was the first time that I said, "Ooh, you know, maybe there is something there." So meditation is another important resource of inspiration for me, or for thriving. I'm meditating on a daily basis, and yoga is another very, very important component in my life. And what else? I think that's it.
Awesome. So, you know how they say, like, when you keep hearing something over and over, like it'll be like a little whisper and then it'll just hit you upside the head. I'm reading a book that quotes Eat, Pray, Love a lot. So now I'm like, okay, you mentioned it. I have to read it now. It's just, I have to do it. So I'll definitely.
Which book is that?
I'm reading Taming Your Outer Child right now. So it talks a lot about self-sabotage. Very, very good book, but it quotes her a lot in there.
Elizabeth Gilbert, I read all of her recent books, all of them. And one of her, I think it's her latest, but I'm not sure, her very latest, one of the very latest ones. It's called Magic, and it talks about how each person has creativity in them. Mm-hmm. And as a person, I always thought that my creativity is shown only when I'm talking about business. I used to have these ideas, you know, in meetings. I used to be a PR person, and I would come home and say to my husband, I don't know where I brought this idea from, but I just think it's brilliant. You know, just like out of the blue. So that to me was the only presentation of creativity in my life. But after reading her book that's called Magic, and she talks about how important creativity is, and that actually as human beings, we're all creative creatures. We just criticize ourselves too much, or, you know, we get into all kind of unnecessary competitions or unnecessary expectations instead of just experiencing what we enjoy doing. So I you know, with the pandemic, I just started to do mosaic, which was something that I've never done. Like, I've never done anything creative before this in my life, and it just gives me so much pleasure. So Elizabeth Gilbert is definitely an idol of mine.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to know. I'll have to check out her other books. So you mentioned that voice in your head and how sometimes it gets really loud. So when you experience things like that, what are some tools that you help use, or relationships that you use to overcome those challenges that you have?
So the first one is meditation. There are endless number of meditations that exist in the world, but my favorite one is Transcendental Meditation. You have to take a course for that. I've tried, you know, mindful. I've tried, you know, listening to all kinds of things. But as an ADHD, you know, when they tell me to stop thinking, or when they tell me to relax, you know, of course the opposite happens. So Transcendental Meditation I found to be the easiest to practice, as a matter of fact. I mean, it's the hardest to pronounce, maybe, Transcendental Meditation, and even harder to write down this name, but in practice, I find it to be the most user-friendly, and that is my number one tool. I actually went to learn how to do it when I was doing my biggest real estate transaction. I'm also an investor in real estate, and I kept on coming around so many obstacles, and I'm like, I'm out of tools. You know, like, why do this keep on jumping in front of my face? It just made no sense. It was just crazy. And I'm like, okay, I need another toolbox. And I just went to learn how to meditate. So that's definitely my number one. When things go crazy, you know, when I can't breathe because I'm so overwhelmed, that's the one thing that I do. And it's very short and very effective. And others, as you know, I'm doing a lot of personal growth seminars, but recently I've learned one very, very effective tool. It's called the DeMartini method. It's the breakthrough experience. And I found it's very systematic. So therefore, it's easier for me to follow. And recently I found that to be another tool. But meditation is number one.
Okay, awesome. Is there a specific obstacle that sticks out to you where meditation really pulled you through other than the real estate transaction you mentioned?
Um, it just, yeah, I mean, when my father was dying, I, I was really scared of it. I was his little baby, and he was my hero. He still is. So, I was really afraid that when he will die, I will collapse mentally, like that. I've never experienced somebody so close dying, and meditation definitely helped, accept it, embrace it, own it, and not collapse. So yeah, I could not recommend meditation enough.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that tidbit. And I mean, I think as business owners, sometimes we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of the business and sometimes forget that we're human and we do have personal challenges as well. So I love that you use that both personally and professionally to help you get through.
Casey, truthfully, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So, some people say, oh, personally, I'm a nice person, but professionally, I'm a mean person. And, we are all both. We are all both mean and nice. And we choose how we behave in every situation. So, if we don't practice self-care to ourselves in our business, we will not practice self-care to ourselves in our personal life. And I feel that meditation for me is like when something is over. So for me, I don't separate myself or my being from being a business owner and being a personal person or human being.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I don't even know what to say, like, because so many people, I mean, myself included, I think we fall into that, like, oh, I'm this way here, and then I have to put my business hat on. But like you said, we show up the same in each way. So it doesn't matter what, situation you're in. So, but I love the fact that the meditation keeps you grounded and helps you. It sounds like it helps you show up as the best version of yourself.
Yes, and what's interesting, also as an ADHD person, it helps me focus. And if, let's say, one day I woke up late and I didn't have the time, because usually I devote if I have to be somewhere, I wake up half an hour earlier than the time I need to get ready, just because so I will have time for meditation. But let's say something happened, I didn't wake up on time, I didn't have time for my meditation. Several hours later, my husband will look at me and he said, "You didn't do your meditation today, right?" Because I'm like that. I'm just a different being when I'm do not meditate. So and it's kind of annoying that he can tell, but evidently he knows me well, and he can tell. So it shows when I don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. That speaks volumes. So that's great. So I have been so excited to talk to you about legacy because I know
I
we've
wonder why.
done that before a little bit. So before we hop into your own legacy, tell me what that word means to you.
So, as you know, I think the audience needs to know that you and I have had a discussion about it before, because I did have a lot of energy around this word, because legacy is talked more about for me, legacy is what we're leaving behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you that I have a lot of energy around it. So I don't have as much energy around it anymore. However, I have an opinion about it.
No way.
Shocking. I feel that I don't worry about my legacy truly. I feel because I can only influence my present, and I cannot influence. I don't see myself as somebody who is here to influence the future. I'm here to influence the people who are inspired by me, or the people who are hating. I mean, I'm here to make an impact now, and I only care about the present. I don't put energy into the future. I don't believe that I can foresee the future, and therefore I'm not bothered by it. So my goal is, so what now? What, like my presence and what is happening now is the most important thing to me. I'm really not worried about my legacy. I'm not doing anything for me to have this kind of legacy or that kind of legacy. What I'm doing is to make an impact now, and that's it.
Okay. So that doesn't surprise me, considering you meditate so much, since meditation is so focused on being mindful of the present moment. And two, it also surprises me at the same time, because with BNI in particular, I mean, while you might be creating such an impact right now, that is impacting people that, I mean, it's just spreading, so when I think of you and the word legacy, I personally think of like generational change, because you're really helping people develop roots and develop their business. So I love what you're creating unintentionally. So.
No, I'm very intentional about what I'm creating, but I'm interested in creating it now. I don't care. I care. I don't invest in thinking about the future. The only area that I think about the future is my children's safety. Like that's what I care about. I want to know that their safety is good, like their mental, their physical safety is good. But this is not legacy. This is just my nature as a parent. But when I'm working on improving people's businesses and helping them thrive in BNI, or in any other personal growth seminar that I volunteer for, or other things that I'm doing, or when I'm recycling, because I care about Earth, I care about it now. I don't, like I can't control what will happen, and truthfully, I can't be bothered by it because I have so little control over it that trying to control it is just an unattainable goal, and therefore I just let it go.
Okay. So have you ever taken the Strengths Finders assessment before?
The DISC, you mean?
No, it's Gallup Strength Finders.
I probably have, but
my executive coach is a strengths coach, and I would love to see where futuristic lands on your strengths. So there's 34 of them total, and it's number 2 for me. So I'm really intrigued to see where it is for you. So it just reminded me. I love the strengths. I think it's fascinating, and how
I'll look into it. I did all kinds of things like that, but
it's very fascinating. So, but I mean, that's awesome. It's definitely a different perspective. And I like, how you say, like, you don't spend your energy on things that you can't control. I think that's really important. So I like it. So talk to me about some other nuggets that you have for our listeners. You've already given, quite a few, but do you have anything specific that you would tell someone who's just starting a business, or who might not even be in business, but is just looking to thrive in life?
If somebody's looking to thrive in life, I highly recommend look for books that they have been a big resource for me. So and it's different people like different books, but one of them is Brené Brown. When my daughter when I wanted to enroll my daughter into the personal growth thing, so I introduced her to Brené Brown, and both she and I read all her books. But guess what? She loves Brené Brown, and she's like, just like Brené Brown says. I'm like, I can't hear that anymore. I'm done. I'm over Brené Brown. I read them all, but I've listened to all her TED Talks. I'm done. I'm okay. but she loves Brené Brown. So, but she's amazing, Brené Brown. I mean, she has this TED Talk that's called The Power of Vulnerability. It's one of the most powerful one. And then the something about shame. I don't remember the exact name, but Brené Brown, just start with her TED Talks. That's definitely a good place to start. But reading books is definitely a thing that I would recommend. And you know, when I run across into obstacles, and what I used to be like is I used to find all the reasons why these obstacles is happening to me. There were a lot of people to blame about my problems, my parents, my husband, my kids. I mean, there were a lot of people in the area that I could blame for my frustrations. But what I learned with this personal growth, you know, that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So this is what I currently believe in, and whether I say that I can or I can't, I'm right. I mean, so it's all up to me. And you know, with that comes a lot of empowerment, but also comes a lot of responsibility, because if I cannot blame anybody else but myself for my results, it's really tough, because I have to look at my results, and if I'm not happy with them, I know who is responsible, unlike before that I could blame somebody else for it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's so empowering that now I know that the sky's the limit, but really, and you know, let's say I have a big goal and I want to achieve it, and I have a limiting belief that I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable, or not smart enough, or all of these thoughts. I will do whatever it takes to find support to get me out of this, you know, unhealthy way of thinking. I will go to a coach. I will listen to a book. You know, I will do whatever it takes, because I understand that it's not true. It's just a belief.
Right.
So, and another thing is, if you have a lot of people who are not supporting you in your life, people who are negative, people who are telling you things like, who do you think you are, or you'll never succeed doing this, or you're just, you know, you stop daydreaming, you'll never make it happen. You know, don't listen to them, because they can eat you up. And so that's it. Listen to books, find somebody that will support you. And also, I truly believe in finding mentors. Like, I'll tell you a true story. I know somebody that we were in the same elementary school in million years ago. And he and I connected on Facebook, but we weren't really close friends. And then one day we spoke, and I understand that he is running a multi-billion-dollar real estate company in New York. Multi-billion, truly. And I was in front of a transaction that he doesn't even look at when it comes across his way. But this same transaction that I was telling you that I started the meditation for, and I called him one day, and he calls me back and he said, Sarit, is this urgent? And I'm like, no, not really. He said, I'm really sorry. I'm working on this $800 million transaction right now. Can I speak to you on Monday? It was a Friday afternoon. I'm like, yeah, you can. And, you know, whenever I need an advice, I'd call him. And he's a very busy man. And he's not a very close friend of mine, but he's just humble enough to pick up the phone and answer me when I have a question, which I admire. The reason I'm telling this story is because sometimes I'm like, oh, should I bother him with this stupid question about investing in real estate? He's such a big investor, but he's a human being, and he's kind enough to call me in the middle of an $800 million deal, because this is who he is. And the reason I'm telling this story is because I recommend for anybody to find somebody who is kind enough to support them and mentor them and help them, and help them let go of the disbelief that they, either in their head or in the people around them.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agreed. Well, thank you so much for sharing all the nuggets and the stories, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. So do you have anything else that you haven't shared that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I just say, go do it because you can, truly. Each and every one of us who listens or watches this, you should know that you are capable. So if you can dream it, you can make it happen.
Yes, indeed. I think I have it on my Facebook profile. If you can, what is it? If you can dream it, you can conceive. I don't even remember, something along those lines, but I love that whole concept. So yes, I agree. And thank you so much for all of the guidance and mentorship that you've given me over the last few years. It's been greatly appreciated and has helped me tremendously.
Thank you for trusting in me, and thank you for having me today.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd also like to thank our sponsor for our music, Stephen Lamar Moore. He created the soundtrack for our podcast. So thank you again, Sarit, and I look forward to thriving along with you over the upcoming years.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.